Friday, we got a Titans TV show casting update. We learned that Bruno Bichir would be playing Niles Caulder, the leader of the Doom Patrol, a team that's tied to Beast Boy's origin in the comics and has already been confirmed to show up in the Titans TV show series in episode 5 of the first season. Geoff Johns sent out a tweet, with the first page of the script for episode 5 in season 1, and it was titled Doom Patrol, which seems to confirm that would be, their episode where they show up. And from what has been revealed, Deadline reported and other outlets about Bichir playing, Niles Caulder. The origin of the character in the show might be different than in the comics, and they might be taking some liberties. Or they could be combining a bunch of things into one. But I'll explain. First, let me get into what the article says. Bichir will play Dr. Niles Caulder, aka the Chief. That's his code name in the Doom Patrol comics, the Chief. A pioneer in medical science, searching the world over for those on the edge of death in need of a miracle. Brilliant but controversial, Dr. Calder will stop at nothing to help those he believes are in need, including his collection of strange heroes known as the Doom Patrol. Now that right there is interesting, but in order to say why, I guess I have to briefly talk about the Niles Caulder's origin. But for one thing, if you notice in the picture right there, first of all, they seem to be race-bending the character a bit, because Niles Caulder in the comics, he was a Caucasian man with red hair, and then as he got older, it turned all gray. But Bruno Bichir, it doesn't look like he's Caucasian. I'd never heard of Bruno Bichir until now. But anyways, Niles Caulder is, the person responsible for creating the Doom Patrol. But originally, he was like kind of a nicer guy about doing it. But later on, in like further reboots and stuff, further writers have made him much more sinister and manipulative and malevolent. But I'll get into it. In the 1960s Doom Patrol comics, the origin of Niles Caulder is that he was a young, brilliant scientist who was very good at, all that chemistry, engineering, biochemistry kind of stuff. And he caught the attention of a man named General Immortus, who was this evil supervillain who could live forever, but Calder didn't know that at first. He was just getting all this money and stuff from this strange guy and was like, yeah, I'll do experiments for you if you're helping me fund them. And so he hooked up with Immortus. And Immortus was someone who lived a long time, and thanks to a serum or some kind of concoction, but he was running out of it. And he wanted Niles Caulder to make a new version of it or something to replace it or keep it up. And when Calder found out that General Immortus was this horrible, supervillain, because Immortus was actually, he was a killer and stuff. He wasn't just an old guy. He said, I'll never do that for you. And Immortus decided to basically blackmail or punish him. He implanted a device in Calder. Basically, if Calder refused to do it, he would activate the device remotely and blow it up to basically kill Calder or destroy his lower body or something like that. I forget what happened. But Calder figured out a way to remove the device himself, but in the process, it cost him, the use of his legs, and it turned him into, someone who needed a wheelchair. And fast forward several years later, Niles Caulder becomes older, and he forms a team called the Doom Patrol. And what he does is he locates people who have had horrible accidents that have given them powers, and he takes them into his wing and makes them a super team and gives them kind of a surrogate family kind of environment between him and the other members, and they become crime fighters. And that's the origin of Calder and the Doom Patrol from the old 1960s comics. Very quickly. Later on, when DC did their first big reboot, Crisis on Infinite Earths, they switched it up a little bit. Grant Morrison, shortly thereafter, he started writing Doom Patrol, and he reimagined Niles Caulder as a cold, manipulative, detached kind of person, not like he was in the comics. In the old comics, he was kind of stern and stuff, but he wasn't necessarily a mean man, per se. But Grant Morrison changed all that, and he made it so that Niles Caulder was the person who actually caused the accidents that turned the members of the Doom Patrol into the Doom Patrol. So he basically ruined their lives. But his philosophy was that, only through great adversity and struggle do people learn to rise and overcome it. It was like this warped kind of mindset. So Niles Caulder went from a guy who would just find people whose lives were ruined by accidents that gave them superpowers into a guy who would, behind the scenes, actually cause the accidents that would destroy people's lives and give them superpowers, basically not giving them a choice. And then later on, further DC reboots kept that, intact. And they kept that characterization intact of him being, a self-serving, manipulative, sinister older man who would create members of the Doom Patrol and in the process wreck their lives. In the New 52, I think they kept this up too, but they were kind of vague about it. It was, he would create the Doom Patrol with experiments, but I don't know if it was him messing up people's lives in the scenes, or if he was getting volunteers and telling them, you know, I'm going to give you power as an experiment, and there's a risk, and they just agreed to it. That was a little unclear to me exactly how he did this to people later on. They didn't really explain it. They were vague. And now in the current Doom Patrol series, the Doom Patrol, you know, is functioning, and Niles Caulder comes back to the series, but he's still a manipulative, you know, old guy, and he has a drinking problem, and the Doom Patrol basically says, you know, we're going to kick you out and continue on without you, more or less. I'm sure Niles Caulder isn't done with that series, appearing in that series, but that's kind of his status with the team now. They're kind of on the outs, on the splits. So anyways, that's Niles Caulder in kind of a nutshell, very briefly abbreviated. I just started reading a lot of Doom Patrol comics because I've been interested in the Doom Patrol, you know, the old back issues. So it'll be interesting to see what version of the Chief, what version of him that they put in the show. Will he be, you know, this, you know, benevolent guy who is finding people, or is he just making them by doing weird stuff to them in a lab? We'll find out, I guess, when the Titans TV show debuts later this year. It's going to debut on DC's digital-only service. That's only going to be streaming. No release date has been set, and we don't even know what the name of the streaming service channel is going to be called. So, but we'll find out eventually because we're getting that this year. But anyways, thank you for watching. I appreciate your viewership. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to watch me make more updates and just talk about DC movies and TV shows, because I like doing it for you. I appreciate your viewership. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.